what I was gonna ask, actually, because of all his qualifications, does he still have to go through all that,
The FTO.
the thing, you know what I mean? Even
He's gonna have to do FTO still because he has to learn the town, the streets.
that long though?
Some people finish quicker than others.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Just so you can, because until he does that, he has to ride around with somebody.
Yeah.
He's not totally green. So
Yeah, which is good, yeah.
he's got some experience, so we're ahead of the curve a little bit.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item is a request for appointment of Susan Babb to the Council on Aging. Do we have a vacancy on there, or what?
Due to Mary Harada's
Okay.
relocation.
Did they already accept,
She already stepped down, or?
She moved as of December 5th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is for Council on Aging.
Right.
Which is
Appointive,
Council on Aging.
not elective.
Council on Aging, not Housing Authority. Got it.
Right.
Sorry. Well, I make a motion that we appoint Susan Babb. Well, do we know Mary Harada's
what was the term?
end date?
The end of her term.
Well, Mike just said as of December
Yeah,
5th.
but there's an end date to it.
Oh,
They don't all end, there's like 9, isn't there? Or 11? And I don't think they all end at the same time. So why don't we just say, just so we don't keep.
I would say
the
Jill,
same
Whatever
term as
still-
what,
yeah,
whatever Mary Harada's
Starting
term
on-
was.
Starting on December 6th, because her letters, oh no, she's already passed. Yeah, so whatever we feel, make a motion that we appoint,
To fulfill the rest of
To have- Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself.
We'll second.
Further discussion, all in favor? Aye. We're crushing tonight, this is good. We have a couple of people who are interested in the,
do we need to wait a minute to get some technical stuff going?
We're going to, so we have, as you know, we have 2 interested candidates. Tom Atwood is out of state, but he's available to participate by call, so he's going to be looking for a call. We'll put him on speakerphone, so you could either interview him
right, so why
first
don't
or
we
second.
do Ashley first? Well, Angus does his thing. Hi,
Thank you for showing some interest in this.
just keep it green. There you go.
Good evening, hi.
And slide it up a little. There you go. Hi. Very low key, we have your information. So, you're familiar with what the committee is doing, but this is sort of for people out there, so they know what. So these are people that are helping with the building of the school to make sure that the towns are getting what we desire, and there's input from the public to the architects and designers and contractors, and
On a level that, the educational value, the building structure, there might be, the initial project has come in after it's been priced out by 2 people, came in a little high, so there has to be some value engineering. We do have to take some things out and switch things around to make sure that it stays within the budget and be part of, all the things that you've been part of. I'm glad to see you here because I feel that if we do pick you tonight, that just like the other person, we talked about the dispatcher, that you're kind of up to speed because you were at every single, I'm the representative, you were at every single meeting that I was at.
I was.
And you have a good commitment to this committee already, so I like to see that.
Yeah, weren't you, you were part of the We Are Pentucket, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
was one of the West Newbury co-chairs.
That's what I thought.
Mhm.
I think we met there.
And I think she is an alum of Pentucket.
Yeah.
So it's always good to know the history so we don't repeat it when we're building something new. I don't have any other questions.
anything. So tell us why you'd like to be on there.
Well, I am a Kentucky alum. I live in town. I'm mother of 2 children. I've been following the project for close to 2 years now. I've been to the majority of the meetings. I was the co-chair for We Are Pawtucket, and I feel like I would be able to kind of jump in and hit the ground running on the committee. I also do some volunteering within the town. I'm on the PTO. I served on the executive board, and I'm the current treasurer of Page School. Girl Scout troop, 6 years. It's just kind of my thing to be involved with the kids.
Don't forget to spread the word about the Girl Scouts, about the tree lighting. There's always a big, please. That was pretty cool.
Rick, any thought, questions?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious, is there anything in particular you have in mind regarding the school? You know, obviously you have a lot in mind regarding the school because you put a ton of effort into it already, but I mean, in terms of the school building committee, is there anything that you see that you, based on having watched so much of the progress so far, that, you know, that you think you want to really direct your efforts at, or?
I'm actually really happy with the way the project is going. I think I don't think it's too extravagant, and I also feel that it's going to be a big improvement from the facility that I went to.
Oh, that's for sure.
Which is very needed, I think, for the educational needs of our kids. I'm pretty happy with it. I do think there could be some little changes here and there on materials that we could maybe save some money on, stuff like that.
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I move that we,
Well, hang on. So did you get did you go a hold of Tom or?
Yeah, he's waiting for a call, so I wanted to wait till so I'll call him, put him on speaker, and why don't I just hold it up, so this.
Do you want to put it in the middle of us? What do you think?
Well, I'm just thinking for the, yeah, why don't we do that?
Just so he hears us. I don't know how it's going to work.
I'm not sure if it'll come through to people watching at home or not.
You can stay right there. You're fine.
Hey, Tom, it's Angus, and you're on speakerphone with a full board.
Hi, Tom.
Yeah, let me just move to a corner spot here, guys. Hold on 1 second.
I don't know if this is working.
And Tom,
Yeah, hey, what's up, Mike?
you have a microphone to the phone, so everybody can hear you at home. Just so you know, I always like to make sure everybody knows there's a live
This is
mic.
yeah.
This is a live mic, just out of respect.
It should be like Macron and Trudeau. Yeah.
Okay,
So Tom, give us a very brief why you're interested in doing this and what you think you could add to it.
Sure. So first, you know, I think most, you know, I have a broad and experience in public service. You know, most specifically with Concom now for 6 years. And as you know, that site has a lot of wetlands-related issues. I think that having a conservation or planning board type of person on the building committee would be helpful from that perspective. Second, in terms of work experience, I've led project management teams as director of project and program management at Jeffco Group. It's a $6 billion, $6 billion publicly traded firm out of Paris. So I have a lot of experience with understanding the nuances and the complexities of large projects, worked on projects with Home Depot, Staples, First Data, Global Payments. So I think, although this is different, it's not an IT-related project, it's a building project, there's a lot of issues, timing that I think can be beneficial. Third, I think just broad experience in finance and technology can provide some unique experiences and feedback to the committee, use of technology in schools, especially since I now lead the technology operations team for a publicly traded firm on NASDAQ. And I think most importantly, fourth, I bring a long-term view to this committee. I'm a Kentucky graduate. I'm almost an 18-year resident of West Newbury. Previously lived in Ireland for 22 years. My daughter's a third-generation Kentucky grad, so I think I'd be very focused on what's best for the town as well as the district long term.
Good. Thanks.
I don't.
Okay.
I know pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
For Tom, Tom, do you think that there might be a potential conflict if you're on the Concom and you have to vote on a project? You know, the project obviously has to need some type of relief from the Conservation Commission.
Hi, Mike. I do not. I think that if we look at conflict, it's more, personal conflicts are really the type of conflict of interest that you have to really be concerned about. I think what brings is actually more value, positive value. I understand the thinking of the Conservation Commission. I understand the issues. If you haven't sat on a Conservation Commission, you sometimes might not understand exactly what things the Conservation Commission would look for. And I think that the experience I've had on the Western Area Conservation Commission has been very invaluable from that perspective, and has been able to add value to a number of different projects that various people in town have undertaken, and have asked for my personal views on what would be best to help them be compliant and bring forward a proposal that would be that would get through the process quickly. And again, this is a very complex project. It's more than just the initial filing. It's the compliance that's going to happen through the whole project that is going to be quite significant. And if someone can provide their personal views, which again, I would not be speaking on behalf of the commission, I'd be speaking as an individual member who understands the perspectives of the commission. I think that might be valuable from perspective of just being able to provide quicker insights and feedback that might be helpful when the school building committee does speak with the Conservation Commission.
I'd like to ask Mr. McCarron, would there be a situation where you would anticipate in Tom's dual role where he'd have to recuse himself in that situation?
I haven't looked up any, descriptions on that potentiality. I would think that he might have to recuse himself as a member of the Conservation Commission from voting on anything that he was a committee member on. That would,
in the opposite direction?
in the opposite direction,
Okay.
as opposed to, that basically he couldn't participate in granting a permit to a board that he was a member of.
They made decisions on.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But that would be my initial feeling of concern.
Okay.
Hey, Tom?
Yes.
Just so you know, Mike asked that initial question. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah,
I didn't know if you could recognize the voices.
If town council had said that it's best to recuse from votes on Concom, I would be fine with that. I think the main area of focus that I think everyone has, whether you're on the Board of Selectmen, School Building Committee, if you're a taxpayer, is that you want a project that is of high quality, comes in at or under budget and on time. And so what that means from a project management perspective is just making sure that if you can have valuable feedback earlier in the process to be able to avoid the bumps in the road, that helps get to that end goal. And I think that that's one of the areas that really add a lot of value, both from the project management perspective work as well as the Conservation Commission experience.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
You want to take your phone back?
Yeah. Oh, no.
We don't have, he doesn't have to be here when we vote.
He asked me to stay on.
We don't have to. Do we?
Open meeting.
Doesn't really matter.
Okay,
I don't know,
so,
it's just, Rick doesn't have his microphone, that's all I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Just trying to get back to our,
Right.
so you're gonna make a motion, you said?
Yeah, well, I guess, so I'll make a motion, and then we'll have a discussion. So I make a motion to appoint Ashley Davis
Second.
to the School Building Committee.
discussion? I think both people bring great, different areas of expertise and great interest, and it's frankly for me, a tough decision. Tom has a lot of experience. I'm sure he could add to the discussion, especially related to planning and conservation with the to a board that probably doesn't have a lot of expertise in that area. There's certainly that. And Ashley brings a lot of experience in terms of being, a conduit from and in touch with people in the that have students presently in the system and forthcoming in the system. So it's a tough situation.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I give huge credit to, what Tom offers in the way of assets. Great background, incredibly solid background. I like the fact that Ashley is stepping forward to be on a committee, and we need more people to step forward to be on committees.
Well,
More diverse group, rather than keep on pointing at the same
Right.
people.
Amen to that, because I just think the town needs new people in lots of things,
Right.
like old war hoses like me and Glenn have to go, yeah.
A year and a half.
Yeah. So,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Hey, Tom, thanks a lot for
Putting yourself out there, yeah, really.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, take care, bye-bye.
That's what I'm thinking.
I was
That's
gonna-
exactly what I
wasn't
was
gonna get into
thinking.
that, but you're exactly right.
Oh, sorry.
He's valuable.
He would be more valuable there. I don't want him recusing on the Concom.
Exactly.
No.
They have all the, we pay for all the specialists in the wetlands delineation and all that there. It's good to have the second eyes on it.
No, but we need him on the Concom.
So can you swear her in immediately, so you can go to a meeting tomorrow, or does that even have to go through the state and all that?
Oh,
Great.
so this is a slightly different vetting process, right? It has
That's
to
right.
be approved by the MSBA.
Which
That's
is
right.
generally formality, but they.
It takes a little time, yeah.
Your birthday, but it's like weird, it's like a little bit, but it doesn't.
The FBI will be coming to your
Can
house.
you swear me in? Well, I was already selected. Why don't you swear her in? And then we'll try to get those answers maybe tomorrow. They might say, oh yeah, under this circumstances, votes that, I don't know, can we try to even do that, or call Seymour, call somebody?
I don't know if it's a.
She could be a non-voting member until she gets sworn in.
Her, and at least give her opinions and how she
Yeah.
feels, and then.
It seems like, how about that?
Do you have to swear her in?
Yes.
Then why don't we at least do that, and then she can go to the meeting tomorrow, and maybe we can find out from somebody tomorrow.
We don't know whether it's a prerequisite to her being a member, or it has to be a ratification of her being a member. So let's go on the idea that it has to be a ratification that she's a member.
Okay. Sounds
Okay,
That's where you went.
Okay,
thank you.
Fun. See you tomorrow.
all right, thank you.
good. Yeah, thanks, Ashley.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Jennings can tell us about item E. The designers, architects came to evaluate the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Building today, and tell us what happened.
Okay, so.
Was it today or Friday?
It was, yeah, it was this
Okay.
morning at 10
Okay.
o'clock. Myself, Mike McCarron, and Peter Ringenbach from the Building Committee attended on the town's behalf. There were 8 design firms that were represented at the pre-bid walkthrough.
That's amazing.
It was terrific. Really, really good turnout. And it only went for about 40 minutes. It's not a big building. Didn't take long to walk through. People had some questions.
See any
nothing-
mice?
I'm sorry?
Sorry.
So we issued an addendum this afternoon. All the questions that were received, even though Answers were provided verbally. We had obviously committed to provide written responses to every question, not just to those who attended the walkthrough, which was optional, but anyone who had requested the RFQ. So Mike has posted and circulated the addendum to the RFQ, and we've noted if there's any additional questions prospective bidders may have, as long as we receive them by 12 o'clock this Wednesday, we would at that time issue a second addendum with any additional questions. But there were no curveballs in the questions. I think people definitely expressed that they were appreciative of the amount of information that had been provided. Everybody who requested a copy of the RFQ was given a copy of the CPC proposal, which, as you know, not only includes schematic designs, detailed cost estimates, but also operating maintenance cost estimates. There was a question today about whether a hazmat study had been done, which it had been done. So I think, the prospective bidders are definitely starting with a good base of information to good foundation for their proposals. And the way the
Somebody asked a question, Angus, about whether we had the original plans. I thought we did.
They asked actually if we had them in CAD format, which we.
Okay.
And honestly, they may be on some server somewhere. They're probably
Strictly CAD
technically
format.
speaking,
Okay,
they're
that's a
probably
little.
in the town's possession.
That's
But
a little bit
whether we
big.
can put our finger on it is something different. So, but we said, obviously the selected designer would.
Everything in CAD 1900 was in a different format.
Yeah.
Right.
It was Granite 1.0, yeah.
So the designer selection process that's set out in the procedures the board has acted on, provides for the chief procurement officer to make an initial recommendation based on qualifications, at which point the design fee would be negotiated. So that's all still ahead, and Mike could say this if he was here, but the interviews, he does expect to conduct interviews with 3 firms. So that'll be, we don't know how many proposals we'll get, but I think the expectation would be to shortlist 3 firms, conduct interviews, and then negotiate with the top choice firm in terms of a fee.
Who will be making those interviews, just Mike?
No, Mike would be conducting the interviews, but he would include participation from members of the committee. I think he would, I'm sure, give me the option to participate if I chose to. Perhaps Wayne.
Anybody else show up at the meeting today? Anybody other committee members or anything like that?
Just Peter from the building committee.
We had good turnout.
Yeah, he's on it. I have no questions. Sounds like it's going better than we thought.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good turnout. Boy, it's good interest.
So were these people that have, did they say they like to do historical buildings or anything like that, or?
I got the feeling that they really liked the idea that this could be a kind of a what would you say, landmark,
Feather in their cap.
a token, not a token, but one of their
Signature.
They could put it on the cover of their brochure. Yeah, yeah.
from what it was to what it would be. I mean, it could
Have
turn
you
out
guys
to be
walked through
spectacular.
that?
Well, not,
Have you walked through it?
Oh, yeah.
maybe a year ago,
Through
maybe.
the whole place?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been upstairs, yeah,
In that front room?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I
Yeah,
think.
go in there in body armor just in case things fall around.
So I really thought that there'd be a lot of excitement to really restore it, and, a lot of the people there, seemed to be very excited about the idea of doing historic renovation, and it's like.
Well, you were there this morning, so was the rain coming
It
in?
was dry,
It was dry, really?
it was dry, even the turret was dry,
Wow.
and even the basement wasn't that soaky down there.
Okay.
Okay, sounds
Okay.
good.
Next item is a look at some of the comments we've received about the Memorial Day parade policy. First of all, I'd like to thank Mike for giving us the draft. It's really excellent, and I think we're 90% there with it. It's good.
It's
So.
actually nice to have people see that they were reading it and commenting.
Yeah, and a lot of people were pretty much on board with it.
They're very constructive
Yeah.
and not, it was nice.
So what you can expect for the next meeting is we'll put together a updated draft with red lines showing what, the changes from what you saw to what you will have in front of you. So we'll be,
I had one, I had some grammatical things, as I always do, but I had one comment that someone else had also, is that we said we didn't want to have any kind of banners, and then thinking that Pentucket Band has a banner or something like that. So we ought to have some kind of exception for,
I thought it was political banners.
it sort of says, it's sort of too general. So we ought to allow exceptions for, like it says, the Elks Club or whatever it is, yeah.
I was gonna suggest that maybe we change this to, banners that thanks. Banners that specifically, advertise or, represent civic.
Commercial.
Existing civic groups. Okay. I mean. Sure.
Okay, so what about the funeral home has Rogers Funeral Home on it? Do we have to tell them they can't do that, or? No.
Okay, so then I guess we would extend past civic groups, civic or local, do we want to?
Local, I mean, then.
I just think banners that are specifically,
So if it's Rogers, it's Rogers, if it's somebody's Chevrolet, it's their Chevrolet, whatever. But the idea,
So you understand what we need? You
Identify.
understand what we're talking about, so put it into work.
Okay.
We can sit here and,
All right.
we don't want to be too specific, but we don't want to be too broad. If that makes sense.
yeah.
Right? Okay?
And I think at the same, in the back of our minds, and also maybe get some additional public comment on it, is that we want to have the parade czar, whoever he or she turns out to be, that I'm not, I didn't make, I know.
Nobody's gonna want to talk to that person.
But we wanted, how are we gonna pick that person, and how, just the whole nuts and bolts of if we decide to do that, how do we do that?
I think you might have to set a trap.
And say that they'll be able to see their family again, only if they're the.
Okay.
Okay.
And thank everybody for sending in their comments. That's good. Item H, FY21 timeline and budgeting process. So I think we really ought to nail down at least the dates on what we want to do for that.
You're not gonna see that in.
Oh, okay. But I saw it somewhere. Where did-
handed out a draft following the last meeting.
Oh, you did? Because I looked at it, yeah. Where did I
That was
put it?
last week. I mean, that was last week.
Okay. So I thought that I believe we had February 16th for the final date to close the warrant and get articles in. I thought that was cramping the FinCom style a little bit. I think it's too late. We usually are ending it at the end of January, almost, as I recall.
But I think, okay, but I think you might be making reference to when you were on FinCom. And I think the FinCom now is a bigger part of the process. And we're all kind of, not nervous, but we didn't know what to expect last year because it was kind of new with the new FinCom with Angus doing it. But I think the FinCom is kind of like, they're having a meeting, they're already meeting on it. You know what I mean by that? So I wouldn't be, they're not starting to review it on the 16th.
But if 7 warrant articles come in on the last day, then they gotta start doing their due diligence on them at the last, they got 2 weeks to do it.
Well, there's a reason why Angus
The overall budget, I think we're all gonna be in on it earlier, but I'm just concerned about the warrant articles coming in at the last second, that's all.
And at this point, I would have no problem pulling that back a couple of weeks to, the end of January, 1st of February, something like that. And in fact, at this point, I'm sure there will be other things that come in that are not on our radar yet. But at this point, I keep a running list of any time someone says something to me about a potential spring warrant article, I put it on a list. So I think if we let people know this week that the deadline's the end of January, I think people could accommodate that. And with the CPC having pulled back their submittal deadline, they would be expecting to, they could do that too. So that would be fine.
Okay. I'd make a motion that let's see what day of the week that is.
So January 31st would be a Friday.
So let's do that.
Okay.
I'd make a motion that we close the warrant for the annual and special town meeting in the spring of 2020 on January 31st at noontime.
Second. That's Friday, Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then there'll be something come in and I'll be a hypocrite and try to open the warrant.
I have, I don't want to open a can of worms, but just one question on just, so I understand how that all works with capital requests specifically, or if someone puts, let's say a department head has a capital item that they're hoping will get funded, they submit that timely for the warrant, but the CIC, Capital Improvement Committee, wouldn't make its recommendations till as late as mid-March. How does that work? So an article could be on the warrant, but then if CIC doesn't recommend it, what happens there?
I guess that's a good question, but.
Well, the reason, but no, it's a good question, but the reason why we're asking for the deadline there is so it can be properly vetted.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't finalized what's gonna be on the warrant yet.
Got it. Okay,
Right.
so just because it
having
closes, right,
We just
right.
don't want them
Got
coming,
it.
we don't want them
Right, because you don't
coming
actually
in.
post the
and
warrant
that's
until
not
April.
enough
Got
time
it.
to properly vet
Got
it.
it.
We haven't said yes or no yet.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all
Okay,
we're-
good.
We just
That's
want the information so everybody can properly vet. That's
good.
I'm just curious too, if that did happen, as Angus had suggested, what would be the problem with just moving no action when we were in town meeting? Is there a problem with doing it that way?
No, I don't think so. I don't think.
Just
you don't wanna
wasteful,
have a-
it's
Not super
wasteful,
clean.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wasteful of effort, I guess, yeah.
Okay.
So, Angus, I don't want to put you on the spot, but just, in terms of, go ahead, Mike.
Is it for the special and the annual?
Yes, both.
The question was that for the special or the?
And, there was an and. Just so that the board is supposed to give direction on what we feel the sort of philosophy of the budget for the forthcoming year is, and with a lot of big budgetary changes, forthcoming, we will be at least partially hit by the, for example, the school building. Will there be additional funding? Will there be a funding need for the bridge project? There's a lot of things in flux at the moment. So it's hard to, I know, really pin things down. But what would you say? Those kinds of things. What would be a sort of dollar figure or percentage budget change that those might affect? Say we didn't do anything else, how would the budget change with those items?
And Archie had asked me that question last week. I wasn't able to put it together for the packet. I did run some numbers today, and so I'm buckle your seatbelt, I guess.
Okay.
So I took and I have a handout. It's a draft, so it's just a draft. It's just quick numbers. But basically what it shows is I took kind of what we know to be cost drivers for next year. So I took a look at the last 4 approved operating budgets, and so those are the approved budgets, not the expended. I know in the FinCom booklet they use expended, but I thought, at least for these purposes, approved was
Okay.
something that worked better for me. But what you can see in terms of the year-to-year increase from FY20, from 19 to 20 was 615,000, and so on and so forth. So in the last 3 years, the biggest year-to-year dollar increase was 720,000 from 18 to 19, and we already know the initial debt service payment that the town will be responsible for the school debt is 651,000. We know from the numbers we've been given on solid waste that the combined cost there could be upwards of close to 60,000 for the disposal and hauling costs. Health insurance. We've been,
Angus,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but would that be with the new proposal of the one barrel thingy and stuff? Or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it would be more with the other option.
It was going up no matter what, but it was just gonna go up less.
Right,
Okay.
right. The health insurance, we've been advised to budget 7%. As I told you, I think that could be less. Pentucket, and again, I haven't gotten any numbers from Pentucket, but from 19 to 20, it was a 2.4%. So just in terms of a starting point, I ran what that number would be 190,000.
Wow.
Essex Ag, we know there's one additional student. So we're actually going to need to go to a town meeting in the spring to fund that for the current year because we have 2 students this year, not the one that we budgeted for. And I think it's a freshman and a sophomore, so I'm assuming that we'll continue to have 2. We could even have a 3rd student for next year, so that's another, you see that amount, 17,000. So this is rough, and the other thing this doesn't take into account on the school debt, this shows that 650,000 as a pure cost, but as you know, there's going to be the question of drawing from the school stabilization account. So it's not like that whole cost needs to be borne by the taxpayer. Some amount of that can be paid from school stabilization.
And also the fact that this wouldn't necessarily be an increase also because we're assuming that we're going to be using the same retired debt.
Correct.
So this could actually be relatively small. If you add that plus using some of the stabilization money.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a key factor is what amount of stabilization do we draw. But I guess just at a glance, the main takeaway is that before you get into,
Maybe a new
wage
position
increases, anything like that, you're already at a,
950,000.
yeah, which is significantly more than the largest year-to-year increase that we've seen in the last few years.
Right, I can
That's
see
no
that.
no surprise, that we just approved a big override for a major new project, so that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. But it's just, you know, as we start the budget season, it's just.
But remember, though, that of that, say, 650, we are putting in, what did we put in?
320.
320 or 350? It was 320?
It was about 321, yeah, 322 in
Okay,
the current
so
year, and
we
it's
could
about the same next year.
So 320 of that is actually not an increase. And then if we want to take some of that money from the stabilization in maybe a little less because it's only a half hit in 21, but say we took a little less, but still some of that, the 650,000 approximately here could actually be, I don't know, 200 or 150 or something like that. It could be significantly less than this huge number we see now. So it isn't as bad as we think. But there's also other things that can be added on to this, so.
Right,
Yeah, you'd think there would be,
yeah.
unless we're just gonna do everything exactly the same way we did.
No, there
I'd like
would be,
to think
right,
not.
right.
Okay,
Okay,
but I'm glad you did it though, because it
Yeah,
keeps
but
on
that's,
putting everything in perspective.
but I think in terms of the, you know, the policy direction
this is
that
excellent.
you need to, you know, that you voted the last couple of years. You know, I'd hoped I would have this in here. I didn't get it done, so for the next meeting, I know it's later than it should be, but I'd like to give you guys something like this to vote so that you've got your full policy direction. So that just didn't come together for the packet and didn't come together today, but I'll get that done this week and send it out so you'll have it well enough ahead of the 23rd.
Angus, there's usually a pretty easy number that in terms of just, I know it doesn't affect, it's very approximate, but just how much
Average
a
taxpayer
salary
increase.
and wage
Oh.
increase of, say, 1%
Yes.
or 2% or 3%, what that number is.
I
And
could run that very
It's
easily.
usually like, isn't it like 30 for 1% and
It is what it is, but that would be a good thing. for us.
60 for 2% or some,
That,
it's
those
some,
numbers ring a bell from
it's some
last year.
kind of
Yeah.
number close to that.
Yeah,
And so if we could just get that, that's an easy number to help us, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
is
also,
there any talk
I asked
about-
Angus if he's heard any, talk of any people wanting new positions or major changes, and he hasn't heard of anything particularly, right?
well, just the one,
Okay,
the water
okay.
operator.
Which isn't
a
really
continuing.
affecting this
Correct,
budget,
right,
yeah.
right. Right,
Angus, thanks, this is good. Yeah.
okay. So, yeah, so we'll have,
When we keep on, you keep on saying, talk about this for our next meeting.
One, I mean,
Yeah.
Can I just want
Go
to
ahead.
forget this. Can you remind me at the end, I have a note, I'd like to talk about the date of our next meeting?
okay,
Because that might affect
Sure.
things. that we-
okay.
mhm.
Because I don't know how it slipped by me, but we have it.
Instead of the 23rd, were you thinking about the 24th?
No, I gotta get ready for the baby Jesus the next day, so birthday, so, no, I'm thinking about having it the Thursday or something before.
Uh-huh.
That's
I'm totally open to looking at a different date. That would be totally,
I mean, all
Fine
kidding
with me.
aside, the
Yep.
one thing, my mind won't be here, and my mind,
Yeah.
and my might not even be here.
Yeah.
So, I think it'd be easier, I know it sticks right in the middle of the week, so
Is the holiday in the middle of the week?
Wednesday.
Okay.
So it's one of those weird ones where it kinda stinks, you know?
So that means New Year's is in the middle of the week too, then, okay.
So, can we have that discussion at the end?
At the end,
But give
okay.
you a reference to have things ready, and I'd like to make sure if we can.
sure.
You know, just to give you a proper date to have it ready.
Next item is discussion of the animal control officer contract with Newburyport for FY '21. Just as far as I'm concerned, I think we've had no negative feedback from anybody about how this is working. I'm totally on board with basically not changing anything unless there's a minor dollar changes or whatever. Um, I say we go for it, yeah.
Anything they want changed or anything, or is it?
No, not at all. It just, you know,
Make sure I didn't miss anything.
no, it
Yeah,
basically
it's the
provides that if,
same, yeah.
it basically, you know, provides that if either party wants to change, you have to we would have to let them know 90 days prior to town meeting, which is the end of January. So I just wanted to try to, you know, since I wanted to get ahead of this one thing, just to check this off the list, so. Yeah, because last year, as you know, it took, of course, last year was a new contract, new car, there were a lot of
So
complexity.
how has
So
the?
this year it should be
have they-
really.
Has there been any issues with the new vehicle, or no?
No, nothing but praise. People love how it looks. It's
Oh.
a really nifty looking vehicle. The striping, you know, looked great.
You can't, I mean, I can't tell you enough about, as soon as we got into this agreement, for some weird reason, I don't get the phone calls. I haven't gotten one phone call at my house about anything, about animal control, and we used to get them all the time.
Yeah, there was, yeah. Okay, that's good.
Good.
So do we vote on that, or we just say yes?
No, I would take, well, no, I would take no
No,
vote
just,
as.
it's
yeah.
not a contract yet, yeah.
Yeah, I think the,
So I don't know anything about what K is. Angus will have to tell us that.
so we, you know, it's just this Mass Rural Policy Plan. It was circulated through the regional planning agencies, and, you know, they invited feedback on it. As I read it, it's an approved plan, so it doesn't really strike me as something where there's a comment period, but, you know, I receive it, I share it, you know, it's, I told Archie I don't really think it would be productive to like write a lot of comments on it. We got a lot of other things to do, but we receive it. It's interesting to look at, and so I just circulated it in that spirit. But it's not like you know, there's like an open public comment period. It's not regulatory, you know, not like some of the other things that I think would justify the time.
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes of November 12th.
I'd second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye. Town manager updates, so Angus, just give us the cliff notes on what Mass DOT is doing about the Church Street and Bridge Street.
Okay, so the speed studies for Church and Bridge were both submitted and are currently being processed by the state. Also on Chase Street, there was a request for additional data, and at the time that I wrote this email a couple of weeks ago, that hadn't been provided. That has since been provided. Basically, the initial data that was provided was gathered by a police officer, which the state won't accept that because the presence of the officer affects vehicle speeds. So it's really got to be Wayne as a traffic engineer, so he went out, collected additional data for Chase Street, has since submitted that to Mass DOT. That one's a little bit ahead of the process time-wise than Church and Bridge, because that was acted on, I believe, back in June by this board. So Chase Street, I spoke to Wayne today. He said the Mass DOT district has referred the Chase Street to Boston, so it's at least out of the district now. We don't know what they referred. I'm assuming my assumption is they'll approve all of these. It's just a matter of letting the process play out, so.
Good.
But I know that you, as my office also, I know you probably get questions about these things, so I want to keep you apprised as it's going through the process.
Thank you.
And I will tell you, I had no idea in what, as a Commonwealth, we call ourselves a home rule state. I just had no idea until this last year and a half, the hoops you have to jump through to change the speed limits on a local road. I mean, it's just, but I know you guys knew that, and that's part of why there was a lot of it kind of languished for a while. I'll say again, I know we're really fortunate to have a DPW director with, you know, who's a traffic engineer. He can do these studies in-house. Otherwise, we'd have to contract for that.
He told us more about the intersection of Crane Neck and Georgetown Road than we've been looking for all this time. And one of the biggest was that right off the bat, because how you place stop signs, we had a
actually more traffic going on Crane next week than there is on.
That's an historical change. That's an historical change.
Yeah, because it used to be a race strip, and nobody wanted to put a stop sign on a race strip.
Okay, I was just saying, I was just.
Yeah,
using it.
yeah,
I didn't
it's-
mean to get into a conversation.
No, it's just, yeah,
that
it'll,
he's good to have. That's
Yeah,
all. I was
yeah.
I was giving it.
well, and just, you know, what from kind of a resident standpoint could seem to be a very simple request. Like, oh, can't we just change the speed limits? And you know,
No.
and we are getting there, but just this, it illustrates the number of hoops you have to jump through, and for something that really ought to be a simple
I'm
request.
just curious, as someone who has got to be going there a lot, Rick, is the four-way good?
Yeah, I think it is. And I haven't seen a single person blow through it yet. I haven't witnessed that, which is good, and, you know, yeah, I think it's working well.
Because sometimes four-ways are tough, because then you get there and then who goes?
Well, yeah. Yeah, well, you know who goes,
But
but.
if there's an accident, nobody's dead.
True, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's working pretty well, I think.
Good. Adoption of the remaining community compact financial rules,
So this is really just a preview. I don't have anything before you tonight that requires any action, but just to make you aware that, you know, we have, even though it's been a while since one of these was on your agenda, we are still working on it at the staff level. So over the course of the next couple of months, you know, I could have one or two a meeting. I could, you know, it could be a little while, and then you got hit with 6 of them, but I just wanted to really remind you this work is still ongoing. I don't think, Rick, that I've provided you the booklet of the complete policies.
No.
I thought about including that, but where there's 6, I didn't want to confuse it, so I'll just give that to you separately. You guys already have that, but it's just so that when you see them, even though it's been maybe a year, that you just remember these are still kind of humming along in the background, so.
Where they should be at this point.
Yeah,
We can get to them.
yeah, I think, you know, I think with
It's not
the,
impeding business.
no,
It'd be good to have, but let's just do it when we can.
Yeah.
Rather than put important business off just to adopt these.
I couldn't agree more. Yep.
Joe wouldn't agree with that.
I know.
OPEB, so we have a preliminary report from the consultant on our OPEB. Do you want to talk about that, Angus?
Sure.
Or leave it for later, or what?
Yeah, so we've got, you know, we've got the actuarial report on the OPEB. We did receive a preliminary report, as you know, up until, you know, the last one that was done showed that we had OPEB as an asset, which is totally unique. It's a liability in every community. It is going to be a liability this year, so the numbers have changed a little bit since the report 2 years ago. We had a conference call about 2 weeks ago with the actuary. She was very non-concerned with that. It's basically, you know, we have a relatively small pool of employees and retirees, and a single change of a single employee, you know, can change the numbers, because they're doing this over the life of, you know, the projected life of that individual. So one change, you know, compounded 20 years can show up as a big dollar change. So
The one thing, Angus, I'll talk to you later about this, but when I looked at it, it didn't make sense, because the new, it didn't make sense because there's actually fewer people than the previous year.
But it's the price tag, it's what those value of those.
I understand, but it still seemed weird that there's fewer people on the plan, and and our liability went up. That just, it didn't.
Somebody taken off, but then somebody put on that has a.
I know.
Other actualities have a longer lifespan.
But it just, I know, I'm just asking, questioning it though. And there was another line that just says, and again, this is way in the weeds, but there was a thing that was called changes of assumption, which added 200,000 plus to the liability, and that seemed like a kind of a dumping ground. Like, I think changes of assumption, I think they need to owe it just seemed like, what does that mean? That's all. I'll show you where it is.
Good.
But, okay.
I really don't know what's gonna happen.
So
Yeah.
we're expecting the final report by the end of the day
But
tomorrow.
you said
so
that person is coming in?
Yes.
So I'm gonna be at that meeting and I'll
Perfect.
drill down.
Good.
That's gonna be at the finance.
The Investment Policy Committee, which meets next Tuesday. So I thought since they kind of really get into this stuff, seemed like that'd be a good venue for presenting the report. We can always bring her back for another meeting as well. But also I know Archie's going to be at that meeting. So yeah, so that'll be a good one to really get into the details on this. And then once I get the final report, I'll send it to the board and to the FinCom as well.
This is just a draft. Maybe, maybe they made a mistake. I
Yep,
don't know. Yeah.
yep. So, so,
Thank you.
Good.
Follow up on the meeting assignment?
do you want to talk about the next meeting date? Is now a good time to do that?
Okay.
If I neglected to ask, forgetting about putting something on executive session, somebody remind me of that? I want an update on something. I will, just remind me.
But you mean for today or?
No, in the future.
Okay.
So in terms of the topics for the next agenda, obviously they're not set till the chair finalized the agenda the prior couple of days, but in terms of what I have now for the next meeting, the Memorial Day Parade rules. There's a residents group that's working on a CPC proposal for the Page School playground. Wayne and I met with them again earlier today. They will be asking the Board of Selectmen for a letter of support. So they had asked to be on the next agenda, which I've assumed would be the 23rd, but that could change. We've had a resident ask about parking restrictions at the intersection of Selvins Court and Whetstone. That's not locked in for that date. That could be January.
Okay.
And Rick, you'd mentioned about the EV stations.
We've, Angus, we really,
Vetted that.
Yep.
I don't know what more the board can do.
I don't want that in front of us.
We spent,
Can I just say something?
well, no, I'll say, so that Angus knows, we spent so many hours on that.
And there's votes, so as long as so there's votes there. So now, if there's something going on down there, that means that whomever.
I'm not paying attention to what was actually determined in the past. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, so signs could be taken down, and this is all speculation, or we're not enforcing it properly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to come back to us. We met with the whole neighborhood down there, and I don't think.
We had the fire truck make the turn while we were standing there.
Yeah, this wasn't, I forgot
Remember?
about that.
Yeah,
this
the
wasn't really
ladder, we
Nelly.
went down there some freezing morning and watched while the ladder truck made the turn, and everyone, so somebody's not paying attention to the existing rules.
Perfect, that's the way to say it. That's where it needs to go. It doesn't need to come here.
Okay.
We know the truck can make it.
And we had multiple meetings here, and we had one at least down there, and we met separately down there ourselves.
Yeah.
We had multiple meetings.
We actually had a posted meeting down on the street, I think, yeah.
And we all spent our own time down there too. just to
Yeah.
make sure. So I don't wanna start, no.
Okay.
We voted on stuff. There's something out there that we voted on. And
Like somebody is parking too close to the corner or
if
whatever.
that's the case, then we have to ticket them.
Yeah,
Or at least, I would like to think we live in a town that we would give them a warning.
yeah.
Before we start ticketing people, just because they might be whatever, but
Also, I would actually also talk to Mike Dwyer, because he knows the turning radius of the truck and how much,
But that's all been taken
but
care of.
it's all been measured previously, yeah.
That's what my point being,
Yeah.
we don't need to do it again because
We did it, yeah.
we actually,
Maybe we need our first tollway zone.
All right, so there's not much that I've got for the next.
And we want to finalize the budget recommendations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
so, you have a problem doing it Thursday?
I do.
I know,
I have a conflict. We've got tickets to a show down in Boston.
so nice. What about Wednesday?
I think Wednesday works.
Can you do it during the day?
Wednesday, the 25th?
Yeah, I can do it during the day too. Yeah, sure, I can.
Can you,
We
you going
can.
away at all, aren't you?
Wednesday the 25th.
What day are you talking about in the daytime?
I don't know, what about Friday? The morning?
Friday morning, I can't do it, no, but Friday,
Well, we shouldn't start doing things during the day because if people wanna come in, they might have to work, that one group.
Wednesday,
can't-
Wednesday, the 18th, is that?
Hold on,
what's wrong with the 18th, yeah?
Angus, because actually,
You can't do 18?
well, I can, but starting tomorrow, I get crazy.
I know.
So, one thing, what about, not having anybody come in? Now, the only people who really wanna come in, outside of us making decisions, obviously it's an open meeting. We can't push that paid school group off to our next scheduled meeting in January?
You could. Yeah, I mean, the only thing pressing on that is the submittal deadline is January 7th, but a letter of support could be added. You know, it's not like that needs to be in when they initially submit it to CPC.
Could we get away with no executive session? On the 18th?
That's
Unless
up to you.
there's something urgent.
There's nothing that's on my,
So what
Calendar.
about all the, Brown Spring and stuff? Are we finally?
that's all done.
We all done?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I'm just trying to think of my life of maybe starting the meeting at 7 instead of 6, just in case I have to do things to get ready for the next day.
Mhm.
And then,
But that's fine, Glenn, and there's no reason we can't, if we had to do an executive session, we do like a 15-minute one, or afterwards, yeah. Okay.
I mean,
No, that's fine, let's do it that
so
way.
I'm here, right, so this is my reasoning. I really don't care if we have it on the 23rd, me personally. But I don't think if we can do it earlier, I think it'd be better for the staff, and more respectful, that we could have it so they could at least, the kids are off of work, nothing bothers me, my kids aren't in that thing. So at least our staff could have the flexibility if they wanted to leave early or take a day off and not have to stay late on the Monday before, whatever. So that's the only reason why I'm thinking about it. So if that messes things up,
No, it doesn't. The 18th is totally fine for me.
Or how about this? Can we start, on the 23rd, can we start early? Just get it over with.
When?
On the 23rd.
What?
Started at 4:30 or something. 4 o'clock.
I'm good with whatever.
How about that, Rick?
I could work with that. Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, the 23rd stunk for me anyway, but now that at 4 o'clock I can do it because we're not gonna have 2 hours worth of stuff to do, right?
No.
Yeah.
why don't we not make a decision tonight and you two talk?
Okay.
I feel comfortable with either having it on the 18th.
So the
or
23rd,
7th.
late afternoon works for you? And
Oh, yeah, I'm just
and-
thinking
and
about the staff.
Yeah,
I don't care.
okay.
Or
Yeah,
three-
yeah,
or
yeah,
three o'clock.
I'm just saying those, so those are the two possible times for Archie and Angus to discuss is.
Yeah, or 3 o'clock.
Sure, that, fine by me.
Okay. Yeah.
Fine. I think that's the only day I don't have, any catering parties, I even have it right on the 20th.
Okay, well, that's better for you than the 18th then, actually.
Honestly,
Yeah, okay.
I was just thinking of you guys, I was trying to take
Okay.
over the team.
Good.
20
After the meeting, I'll tell you a story about last year, Christmas Eve.
Probably had something to do with those policies.
Looks like it
You
was.
were doing OPEB policies at 1 AM.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
And I have no problem with those people coming in. Obviously, I was just trying to make it as flexible as we possibly could, that we didn't have to like say, when you get back, say, oh, they can't come in until X, Y, Z. But they could give us the letter. Hold on, everyone's still on.